Hello, all you fine, beautiful people, everybody. You're here today, and today I'm going to be doing the one episode live stream that, let's face it, this might even get me kicked off the prog corner for having this opinion. Uh, and today I'm going to be asking the question: is the album by Yes overrated? And I know to a lot of prog fans, they'll be thinking, "What the heck do you mean? Yes, is close to the edge is overrated." They'll come out with pitchforks, flaming keyboards, the fingers going. But I think the one thing I'll say before I really get into this, I think the first two songs are really, really good. Like "Close to the Edge" is a masterpiece, and "You and I can listen to that song anytime, any day. But I think where it loses me is that final song. And I remember the first time I heard it, I was completely mind blown. And then the more and more and more and more I kept listening to it, the more I found that I didn't listen to it all the way through, that I would stop at Siberian Kashru. And I think there's something to be said for that, where it's like, can an album be considered a masterpiece if you skip songs? Can it be considered this pinnacle of something if there's something in there you don't like? And it's very interesting because I've looked at a bunch of, rankings of Yes, and some people don't have this as their number 1 album. I know my, co-host Scott on the Prog Corner, great dude, he has Tales from Topographic Oceans as his favorite Yes album, which I find really interesting, and so I know in the Prog Corner, the whole prog community, I know a lot of people probably think my opinion doesn't matter. And I've always come at it and kind of been different. I look at it this way is that I've never ever thought of coming into this and being like just accepting of this album's great because we say it's great. And that's never really been my thing. I'm the type of guy that I'll come in and I'll ask, well, why is it? If you guys consider this such a great album, why? And I think that's one of the good things. Like, I don't come from a progressive rock background at all. Like, my, dad, introduced me to Pink Floyd, Deep Purple, Uriah Heep. You can make arguments that those bands had prog tendencies, would some say they're full-blown prog at times, and I'm not sure if that's 100%. And then you get, like, Yes, and I come into this very new, and I admit I come into this very new. Last since about 2021 is when I discovered Yes and discovered ELP, Genesis, and all these other bands. And I think the one thing that really I've always tried is to be true to myself. Like, form an opinion, admit your opinion can always change. And that's what I say about this. This opinion can always change. Maybe one day it will click for me, but it really doesn't. Like I said earlier, Siberian Khatru is a song that I listened to, and it took me a long time to figure out what is it about Siberian Khatru that I don't necessarily like. And it came to me one day when I was just listening to it, as I broke down and listened to each individual part of the song. And the more and more I did that, the more I realized that I find the keyboards and the guitar playing on it overbearing. Like, it's almost the point of annoying, like, hearing it. Like, I don't mind Chris Squire's bass. I think his bass is absolutely amazing in that track. Bill Burford's drums are amazing in that track. John Anderson is John Anderson. But it's Steve Howe's guitar and Rick Wakeman's keyboards. It just grinds my gears. I don't know why. That I think that's one of the reasons I don't like it. Uh, I remember the first time I heard it, it was fun. Like, it was there. It was one of the first Yes songs I think I actually ever reacted to. Like, I know I did, "Sweetness." I did Starship Trooper, and then I did Siberian Khatru, and I kind of went all over the place with Yes. And it really is a very interesting sort of way to look at an album. Uh, Looking at Close to the Edge, I think there are great moments. It's a great record, but then it comes back to this. I don't think Close to the Edge is the greatest thing Yes ever did. I think they did better. For me, if you're talking to me, I think Tails is better than Close to the Edge. I think Relayer is better than Close to the Edge. I think Fragile is better than Close to the Edge. Going for the One. I might even say the Yes album for me, I prefer over Close to the Edge. And might even say Drop, which that's an album I've really started to enjoy a lot. It's one of those where it was kind of a little interesting first time I heard it, but it's one of those that I think's really moved up my list of favorite Yes albums. And the more and more and more I go to it, the less I find Close to the Edge this monumental pinnacle as much as other people do. And I have to say, looking at music, and it might be an age thing, and that could 100% be. I could be completely just because I'm younger. I know there's people that have spent over 50 years with this album and have studied every note, every key, every nook and cranny of it. Good for them. I 100% respect them for it. Like, if you love this album, more power to you. But I think there is an argument to be had, especially a lot of these albums we consider these pinnacles, is I think I wanna start a discussion of discussing what makes these albums great, what makes them better. Like, it's kinda like me with The Wall. That'll be a prime example. I know a ton of Pink Floyd fans that consider that, like, they think Pink Floyd's peak or one of their greatest albums they ever did. I'm not a fan of it, and I've made my opinion known about it, why I'm not a fan of it. I think the track listing is wrong. I don't think it tells a complete narrative, complete story. I think they go from one part to another, and it's like, "What the hell happened here?" Uh, but that's my opinion, and it is what it is. Um, but getting back to Yes is Close to the Edge, like, it's one of these things where the more and more and more I've just delved into it, the more I'm like, are we just accepting other people telling us that it's this great album? Like, whenever you look at, like, the great albums of prog, it's always mentioned, but it's one of those where I'm listening to and I'm like, I just don't know if I can put it there. Honestly, I'd take most of ELP's '70s albums over it. I'd take Pink Floyd's run from a metal Dark Side, Wish You Were Here, Animals over it. Genesis, I'd take their 70 from Nursery Rhyme onward. I'd say they released some stuff better than that. It's just one of these things where I know a lot of people have a feeling for this album, have an affinity for it, and I'm not gonna hate people for saying that or for having their own feelings towards it, but I think what we have to do as a musical community is actually kind of start questioning and pushing back on some of these narratives. Like, I do we truthfully believe this? Like, is this our favorite album, or are we just saying it just so people won't jump on us? And I think there is a main thing for always questioning, always asking why. And this album for me is one of those albums where I just instantly say, is it really a good is there a question in here to say, why is this so great? Like, I've never had anybody actually come out and tell me specifically why this album is considered such a landmark. I can understand why albums like Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon, I can understand why that is considered a pinnacle. It's a production, came out at the same time, right place, right time album. High Fidelity Stereos just came out, everybody owned it. I can understand it. Supertramp's Breakfast in America. I can understand why that album is sold as much as it did. Kansas's Leftover, Styx' Grand Illusion. Like, there's albums out there. Brain Salad Surgery, Carcass by Emerson, Lake and Palmer. I can understand why all these albums are held in regard. But you also have to ask yourself, is if you prefer all these albums over it, and even in the Yes catalog, if you prefer all the Yes albums, like I mentioned earlier, if you prefer some of these over this, is it a terrible idea to say, has it entered into the realm of being overrated? Because it's something that I've always felt that being rated properly and being overrated is such a finite line. And it's very much on a curve, it's a graph. It's like, what is reality and what is hype? And I feel like over the years, it's kind of taken on this mythical uh, feeling, like just this mythical hype album where it's like, is the hype finally for this album exceeded its reality? And part of me believes yes, and I know a lot of people will not like that opinion. I understand that, and you're valid to your opinion, but I think this is my argument. I believe it is overrated because an album can only be rated. Hey, first off, an album has to be rated to be over or somewhat underrated, especially overrated. It has to be rated. I know Scott did his video on overrated albums. He had Michael Jackson's Thriller, and I understood his argument. For me, I think the song on this album ruins it from being a perfect album for me. I know it's a very unpopular opinion, but it's one of those things. Looking at it through different perspectives is something that I've always kind of really enjoyed. I love hearing different perspectives on albums. Like I said, I love Pink Floyd. I like even some of the early stuff. I know people who absolutely hate that stuff and will never listen to it, and will never open up to it. But the other reason why I want to kind of ask some of these questions of some of these albums, like why are they so great? What are they overrated? Is because it starts discussion. And some people who might feel like they can't voice that opinion because they're worried about being ridiculed, being mocked by prog fans, it's something where you can say, hey, you know what? I might not agree with what he says, but at least you have the guts to say it. And that's just my opinion. Like, I don't expect every album in the world, everyone to agree on everything. It'd be a very boring world if it was. And I love music. I always have. Getting into prog has become a great love of mine. And finding different styles of music, like I found it's opened me up a little bit more to new wave, to punk, to even want to go back and see what maybe my thoughts on grunge a little harsh. Has it kind of softened over the years? And that's something that I think with people we really have to understand about ourselves. If there is growth, like we could have an opinion once and it can change. And an album might and Roger Waters is a great example of this. For years, I was never a huge fan of the pros and cons of hitchhiking. Kind of in with the Muse to death. I always liked Radio Chaos, but even is this life we really want? I kind of found myself after that thinking, geez, this is actually not as bad as I thought it was. And it kind of allowed me to kind of look at it in a whole other lens. And same with this album, like like I said, there's parts to it where I can forgive. Like I think I'm not sure if it's just because it's the deluxe remastered one, but I remember at the beginning it had the bird, and I'm like, okay, this is pretty good. This I'm used to this with Pink Floyd, the little bird chirp, and then it goes into like this very kind of harsh guitar, and everything going on at the same time. There's some absolutely beautiful passages in there. Rick Wakeman's organ in that song is beautiful. John Anderson's vocals are beautiful. Uh, it's a very beautiful song, and You and I has some absolutely fantastic Steve Howe guitar harmonic playing on it. Like, it's beautiful. Rick Wakeman, John Anderson. Like, this band is a great band, and the more and more I listen to Close to the Edge, though, it's just like, ugh. It's like I wanna really love this album, but I can't lie to myself and say that I don't feel it's overrated. It it's just my opinion. If you give me the option, I much prefer, like I said, I'm going for the one. It might have its missteps, but it's an album I just like more. I went on a oh, what was it? I was going through the air like a dark night, snowing, blizzard in an airplane, and just with that little bit of dim light through that, and I remember just shutting my eyes and listening to Tales from Topographic Ocean, and it felt almost like this religious experience. And it's one of those things that the more and more and more I listen to other stuff, I guess it's just the more I like other stuff. I don't know if that's your guys' thoughts and opinions on it. I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions on it. Uh, but that's my thoughts. Really, I think it's overrated. I could be wrong. I could be completely have Scott one day come to me and say, "Yeah, you're not on the front corner no more." Nope, nope, nope. But that's the one thing I love is just having discussions about stuff. There's a lot of albums where I'm like, is this just people trying to pop some of these albums up so it makes them look smarter, or they're too afraid to go against the grain and the consensus and actually have an actual opinion? Because there's a lot of reaction or not reactions. There's a lot of rankings lists I've watched where you could almost I feel as if the same person wrote every script and it's just one person reading it. They might throw something in a different spot, move up the script a little bit, but they're all talking the same. And it's like, okay, when I did mine, I'm like, okay. I even said at the beginning, mine could change in 2 years. I was very adamant about that. How new I was to the band, I'm like, an album that hit me now might not be the same in 2 years. So that's always been my way of looking at it. But yeah, that's just how I feel. Feel free to comment down below. Uh, say what you think about it. I know there is a lot of how do I put this? I know there's a lot of people out there that have their opinions and they think their opinion is all that matters. I've never been that way. My dad's always kind of pushed me to be my own person and kind of not worry about so much what other people think because really it's only your life. Yeah, so coming so yeah, it's one of those interesting little nuggets. I know a lot of people probably look at me the same way again, saying is Close to the Edge overrated, but to me it is. Uh, anywho, coming up on the channel, I have a few more rankings coming up. I know Tool top 10 list is coming out. Go look at my channel community tab. There is a bunch of what would I say? there is a bunch of polls up. I have a couple ties, so I need people to go vote on those so the ties can go away, and so I can start filming or getting around to doing some of those. My next two, oh, comment. Yep, there is Scott. It is not overrated. Yeah, Scott, I know you love the record. I know this is probably like, oh man, I treated him like a son, and he's stabbing me in the heart. But I think it is a valid argument to have. That it's one of those good ones. But yeah, just gonna be doing Tool. I think the one after that, Super Tramp. I'm gonna be looking at doing some ranking songs off albums. Right now, I have one that's a tie between Genesis, and then there was three, and Alice Cooper Goes to Hell. Those ones, very interested to really step back and do. Also, other ones I was thinking about doing another one. Is this album any good? Gonna probably come up with some ideas for that. I like throwing it out in polls and having you guys vote on it, but I know exactly what you want to see. Some of the polls tell me, okay, this is what you guys want and everything. But yeah, over on the Sunday prog stream today, or on Sunday, not today, Sunday, we're going to be talking about underrated albums and prog, and I have a feeling some of mine are going to be like, oh, some are gonna be like, "Ooh, I haven't heard that album in a while." One of the great things about loving obscure '60s, '70s bands is there's a lot of them to choose from, and there is some great underrated albums in there. Didn't wanna take this, too long. I wanted to keep it kind of about half an hour. So, yeah, if you guys have any questions other than that, just post them down below. Yeah, yeah, close the edge. One of those albums that, yep, I knew I was gonna get a little. I'm probably gonna get a little flack for this one. That one I know. I'm thinking of making this a series. Now, comment down below if you want to make this a series, because there is other albums that I would love to talk about in that light. And yeah, Mr. Thor, I know. My dog's underneath here. He's telling me, "Don't do it, don't do it." But yeah, so it's gonna be a interesting topic. 'Cause the next one I was thinking about doing was of the wall and really, really stepping back, breaking it down. I thought about then adding slides and all that stuff in the video and seeing how it goes. But anyway, pretty close to half, 25 minutes. So just gonna kind of pop off here. This was only meant as a quick stream. So once again, thank you guys so much for watching. It really does mean a lot whether you read this history. It's all subjective at the end of the day. But thanks for watching. This is here. Out. Peace.